Christian the word bad. For people looking him up right now, because you all use LinkedIn probably, he has an amazing CV actually. Not amazing in the fact that he was very successful or anything, but he made a very bold move and a right turn, I feel, from working at UBS as a managing director and then saying, you know what, thank you for all the money, not for me. I will do behavioral science in the meantime. Christian, this is a slightly different announcement than all the rest of them, I guess, because you're already here. Hi.
Hello.
Good to see you. Yeah, Christian Hunt, everybody.
I love how people clap before I've done anything.
Yes, yeah.
Thank you.
In German, it's Vorschussvertrauen. You know, it's like people feel like, well, you know, you dressed up, so usually that's a good. Actually, very nice color choice, by the way. You're all the way down. Right,
it's all good,
and you're excellent. You're good to go. This is why.
Yeah, well, we'll explain this.
We'll explain this. So what I'm saying, and I'm getting to, and we already used some time of your time. No, please say.
I was going to hide behind them.
Yeah. Do you know Between Two Ferns? Yeah, this is exactly the same. Yeah. I'm very happy that you're here, and I enjoyed talking to you off stage so much already. So I'm looking forward to what you're going to tell us about finding your voice and doing something, and then to price it that maybe people don't appreciate as much yet. So you don't need this, I guess?
No, I'll have this.
Christian Hunt, everybody.
That's two rounds of applause for doing nothing. Thank you. We didn't plan this, but a lot of the things that Zika said will flow into mine, hopefully. Human Risk is the name of my company. I'll explain what that does. The date is just to scare you. And Not Playing the Game was the formal title that I wanted to give it. But I think a better title would be Breaking Bullshit Rules. And since we're in Berlin, we have to have graffiti. And I'm a massive Lego fan. So we will have lots of Lego people coming on the journey with us as I explore what I do, how I do it, and things that you can maybe learn from that. But there is a real hero to this story. It's not me. And you can tell from the background and this who that hero is. And I'll explain why he's the hero in a second. The hero is Ampelman, who is Berlin's best compliance officer. Every single day, this guy single-handedly gets millions of people to follow rules and to wait when they desperately want to cross the road for their döner on the other side of it. And he is here because he kind of represents what I do, which is I help organizations to get people to follow rules and principles. So to make sure that organizations are compliant, ethical, that people follow cybersecurity, hygiene, all these kinds of things, I help organizations to think about. And the way Ampelman does his job, 24 hours a day, notice he's not lazy at all, is quite interesting, right? He's a very familiar character. Everybody thinks it's very fair. It's the same rules for everybody. We know what he's about. We know how he works. It's very, very clear what you need to do. And there is an element of fun to this. And it's not just fun that came when they tried to get rid of Ampelman. That fun was always there. The original designer, Carl Paglitz, wanted to have something that would make people smile as they went about their day-to-day existence. And waiting for traffic lights is not something that normally makes us smile. So I think he's the perfect icon for the sort of work that I do. Now, before I go on, I talked to you about breaking rules. I think it's really, really important. If there's one lesson you take away, is I think there are lots of rules out there, formal ones, informal ones. I want to challenge you to question every single one of them, because you'll have lots of people telling you how they do things, what you should do, the hacks to successful business. I say listen to what they say and decide for yourselves. And the most important time to do that is right now. I'm going to tell you a load of things that I do. Some of it may not work for you, and that's fine. Be inspired or be not inspired, but question and challenge everything, because this is your business and your world. Now, the challenge I have with my world of bringing behavioral science and creativity into compliance is that none of the people who might hire me wake up in the morning wanting what I have to offer, because if they did, they would already be doing it. So the challenge I've got is I've created this thing, and I'll tell you how I got there, that doesn't have a ready client base. They're not sitting there looking. Nobody Googles for me without me letting them know that I'm there. And that's a bit weird because we know what happens when organizations mess up from a compliance perspective. My industry of banking, we know what happened when they screwed the world up. When organizations get compliance and ethics wrong, things go horribly wrong for them. And so logically, they should want the services that I have to try and get more effective compliance. But for some reason, they don't. What I'm trying to sell is not necessarily logical. It has to work on a different level. And the usual answer to compliance, for those of you that worked in big organizations, you will know this, is to do stuff like this. Let's make it as boring as possible, and we will just tell people what to do, and they will do it. We will instruct them, and they will automatically follow that. Now, I think that works in theory, but I don't think that works in practice. I think if we want humans to do things, we need to engage those humans and speak to them, not shout at them or lecture them. And I got to this through a very accidental career. I started as an accountant. We do not talk about that. I then went into banking because it pays really well. And then after the financial crisis, I have to stress this, I became a regulator because they were looking for people that weren't normally regulators. I then became a compliance officer and then moved into behavioral science and what I do now. And the big reveal, the big moment for me that got me to do what I do was when I ended up eating my own regulatory cooking. I'd been the regulator and then I went to the other side of the fence and I had to implement the stuff that I'd imposed on the firm. And as you can see from the Lego version of me, that did not taste very good. I had a really bitter personal experience of here's something I thought was sensible and now I have to live it. And that's what's driven my business. This idea that I knew where the rules were coming from, but the practical realities felt very, very different. And the challenge I have is that a lot of the people I'm selling to have not been through this experience. They haven't experienced what I have, and therefore I need to put them in a space where what I'm selling makes sense to them. It obviously makes sense to me, but how do I make it make sense to them? And the real realization that I had as I was suffering my own rules, oh, my voice gone up there, was that when we look at compliance, people talk about compliance as an organization. We need this organization, this industry to comply. It's actually not about the industry or it's individuals. You can shout at a building, you can instruct a website, you can talk to a legal entity, but they will not respond. It's the humans within organizations that we need to connect to. And so I was in this job, compliance, that was all about rules, but actually I realized that to solve the problem I was there to solve, I had to communicate with human beings. And in order to do this effectively, I realized that the word compliance is a terrible brand. If you were trying to make something sound bureaucratic and boring, you would use the word compliance. It sits between complex and complicated in the dictionary. And you would then add the suffix officer just to make it sound even worse. Right? They have chosen a terrible way to get humans to behave, and they've chosen the world's worst brand to go with it. So my business name and my whole thinking has nothing, I don't like the word compliance, I get rid of it. I came up while I was working at UBS with a new definition. And I created a really vague definition that lawyers hate because it has the word things in it. And this is designed to cover everything from I was a bit tired, so I made a mistake, to I am setting out to commit fraud. And compliance sits in the middle of this. And by redefining what I did as human risk, I could suddenly say this is the biggest risk facing the firm. Because anytime anything goes wrong, it's a case of human risk. Anytime there's a problem, there's always a human involved. And so what I've done, and I did this internally at UBS, was created a definition that didn't exist before to be able to market something. I created a brand and an idea in-house. And that's what I then took to the outside world. And the interesting experience that I had within UBS was what I call a reverse incubator. This was, they do it a certain way in common with everybody else. I'm going to try doing it another way and learn from that inside the organization. So I'm not going to copy what they do and take it. I'm going to do completely the opposite and try and revolutionize from inside. And the challenge, and so the benefit of that is rather than quitting my original role, I used it as a little bit of a test lab. So I kind of knew that I had a product and a service that I could take on the road. People were interested in this, particularly people that were really pissed off with the way the rules and the system worked. I had this amazing plan back in 2019 where I was going to do this stuff. It was going to be all really in person in London. There was going to be video as a sort of backup option. I had a business plan, a business model, and then we all know what happened in 2020. The world had other ideas. And so I started my business with lots of skills, with a product that I knew, or at least something that I knew would be interesting, but I didn't know how to run a business. Because one of the problems with running an internal incubator is you don't have to sell your product, because the internal market can kind of buy at internal prices. Your price is kind of set by your salary internally. You don't have to think about how you price a particular product. And so when I first started, I thought, I am now independent. I will do what everybody is supposed to do when they are running an independent business. I must have fixed prices. I must know what my prices are. And I must go out and find people who are interested in this subject. And I must participate in every pitch that comes my way. And I discovered that the traditional book on this stuff was absolutely useless for the sort of work that I was doing, because what happened was I lost loads of deals because I was too expensive. I won loads of deals because I was too cheap, and I wasted a ton of time doing crap that didn't serve my purpose. Conventional wisdom on business modeling, strategy, and pricing did not work for what I was trying to do. And I realized that a wrong yes is way more expensive than a no. And so I kind of thought I have to readjust here. I have to work out, how does this actually function? How do I develop a system that works for me? And I had a revelation, this is very rare, thanks to Twitter. Because one of the things when you're in the UK, it is crazy, but it is easier to set up a company than it is to open a bank account. And so because of the tax position in the UK, it makes sense to have your own company. I know all the Germans in the room are going, oh, if only. But I had two separate Twitter accounts, a corporate one and a personal one. And one day I screwed up and I tweeted from the wrong account. Now I think that means I must have tweeted something personal out of the business account, because if it was business out of the personal, I wouldn't care. And I had this freak out. I've sent it from the wrong account. This is going to destroy my brand. And then I realized it didn't matter. Because I was a company of one. I was the brand. And so this idea that the company and me were separate things, and that the company was very important and I was a separate part of it, I suddenly realized was nonsense. Actually, I am the company, and anything the company does is me doing it. Because I couldn't sell human risk without me. I couldn't sell the services and then basically say, oh yeah, I'm not going to do it, someone else will do it. I am the company, I need to own it, the company needs to be me. The company has a personality, and that personality is me. And then once I realized that, I then needed to sort of get behind the business and think, well, when this is working, when I'm able to connect with people, why is this happening? And I realized that there were three main reasons that people bought my services. And these were not logical, obvious reasons. These are things I had to work out. And those three reasons were, firstly, something has gone horribly wrong, and therefore they can't pretend that everything is okay. They have had a compliance regulatory disaster, or some other thing has gone wrong, and they want to do things differently. The second one is that somebody is fresh in a job, and they either want to change things or they want to look like they're changing things, and this guy with his weird ideas might help do that. And the third and the most interesting one is that it's people that have always known that things aren't working, but they've never known why. And what I do is I unlock that for them. If there isn't one of these things, three things in place, I will not get business. And I go through processes and I don't get the business. And so having identified this, what I realized suddenly is that selling my services is not a case of identifying client avatars and go chasing those people. Because lots of people who should buy my services don't want to. There's a political cost to hiring in a weirdo who wants to do things differently. And so the idea of reaching out to people doesn't work for what I do, because radical thinking is only sold to people who have a good reason for buying radical thinking. These people that I'm working with come to me because they want a different answer. And so if I'm selling a different answer, I can't market it and price it like a traditional answer. This should say when you're the product. When you become the product, I'm on the supermarket shelf here. When you become the product, people need to experience it. This is teeing into what Zhika said. I realized that I couldn't confront people with the reasons that they might want I couldn't tell them that, oh, you're new in post, therefore you should hire me. You've just had I needed to show them. I need to get them to work this out for themselves. And so the way that I market my business is not to use DMs, for example. It is not to use cold outreach. It is to put ideas out there and see who likes them. And so I have a podcast, I do keynotes like this, videos, I put lots and lots of content out there to try and spark people's interest. I am looking for the people that I've identified before, but I don't know who they are. I don't know what companies they work for. I don't know what sectors. I don't know where they're located. I don't know what their job title is. All I can do is throw ideas out there and see who it lands with. And for people to trust me, back to Zhika's point, they need to experience it. So I need to make sure that what I put out online is exactly what you get when you hire me. There is no room for bullshit between these two things, because the purpose of this is for them to see what it would be like to work with me. Therefore, it has to be realistic. In other words, to sell behavioral science, I need to use behavioral science. If I'm in the business of saying, I will tell you and help you to connect with human beings, then I need to demonstrate that I know how to connect with human beings. So I need to use the things I teach other people in the work and the marketing that I do. If how I sell contradicts what I sell, they will look at how I sell rather than what I sell. And all of this, you can see, is pointing to unorthodox ways of doing things. This is breaking lots of rules that the pricing experts will tell you. But I'm doing that so that I can break the pricing rules. And I can charge differently for what I'm doing, because hopefully no one else is doing it. So I realized that I should just stop selling and start showing. Show people what you can do. Don't sell them a product or service. I call this vibe selling, like vibe coding. I'm chucking vibes out there. I'm not chucking specific solutions I'm just throwing ideas out there and seeing where they land. And as you can see from one of the gentlemen on the screen, it doesn't always land. And that's okay, because one of the things I've also realized is that I need to use what I put out there like a magnet. I need to attract the people that love what I do, and I need to absolutely repel the people that don't. I want to save my time that I have to spend talking to potential clients for the people that are likely to buy. And so if people don't like what I put online, I want to discourage them and put them off from getting in touch in the first place. And that has two benefits. The first one is when people come, they're highly likely to buy. The second thing is they're probably more likely to pay a higher price, because what you've brought them in on is something they can't quite explain. They just love it. They want to work with me somehow. And so it's easier to charge higher prices. The other thing I never ever do, because I've been burnt so many times, is pitches. Pitches is a form of commoditization. Generally speaking, the biggest single determinant of whether you win a pitch or not is the price tag. There will be other things, but the price tag plays a huge role. If I'm going into a pitch process, it means I have already signaled to the client that I believe my work is comparable with the work of all these other people. And I don't want that. I don't want to get involved in any pitches. In fact, I don't think I've ever won a pitch because I've ended up sabotaging. On a few occasions, I've realized that I'm in a pitch. Sometimes they don't tell you. I've realized I'm in a pitch process. I stop playing the game. I give really bad answers or really high prices to make sure they don't pick me. Because if your choice of me has come to a pitch process where you're comparing me with people that do different things to me, then you haven't understood what I do. I don't want to have that sort of relationship. Pitching makes what I do invisible, so I just don't do it. And this stuff works, by the way. I divide my time between London and Munich. That becomes relevant in a minute. And what I've evolved is a system that gets me clients I would never dream of getting under normal circumstances. I work with the Royal Air Force in the UK, UN chemical weapons inspectors in The Hague, and Eurail. If you've ever used Interrail passes, you'll know them. These are all clients that I got not by searching for them, but by them coming to me. These are sectors that I know very little about, but they liked what I had to say, and they came to me. And I want to reiterate this point that one of the challenges is that we often think price has to be the determinant. But if you can create something that's unique and different that they can't get elsewhere, the people that like it will come to you and only you. And try before you buy is absolutely key here as well. I want to give away as much free stuff as possible. Pricing logic would be keep things behind a paywall. Don't let people see anything. But as Zeke has pointed out before, if you want people to start understanding what you can do, give them options to sample it in as many different ways as possible. That means that there can be no disappointment when they spend lots of money. If they spent a little bit of money or no money on something and seen what it is, to her point, if we get this for free or for very little money, imagine what we'll get if he's actually being paid properly for this. And one of the other things I realized I needed to do was to be much more transparent about who I am and what I do. And I said I divide my time between London and Munich, and I commute between the two by train. Now, I know what everybody, the Germans in the room are thinking, he does what? Right? He relies on Deutsche Bahn to get him from A to B on time? Is he mad? Yes, I am mad. I got fed up flying after the pandemic, and I decided to do something a little bit differently. And so I do that journey by train. And I love doing the journey by train because we all know what the Wi-Fi is like, right? You can't do calls on the train. No sane person would do a business, let alone confidentiality. You can't do calls on the train. In fact, you're kind of out of contact a little bit. And I love the train journey because a lot of what I do is creative. And so I sit in the train carriage, I look out the window, and I can read books, and I can reflect. It's a really powerful time. And I turned this into a branding thing by accident. Because I was on the train so often, it takes a long time to go between this. So it's basically a whole day you take out. I was thinking, well, I'm on a train. I need to talk about the fact that I'm on a train. And German clients can't understand this, and so it becomes a marketing tool. I speak to a prospective client, and they go, will you be coming to us by train? And I say, yes. And they say, well, you'd better leave now then. And then I arrive for client events, and they say things like, did you come by, he came by train, he's crazy. It's become a marketing tool. Not intentional at all, but I love Deutsche Bahn, and long may the delays continue, because I'm never using it when I'm critically against it, but it becomes a marketing tool. Something that was just my lifestyle becomes critical. It's a key part of who I am. I'm not hiding this. It also means I can say to clients, I can't do calls with you today because I'm on the train. Oh, he's having a train day. It's super powerful. And this is about me being me. And the more I am me and the more I put myself out there, not every bit of my life they need to know about, but things like this become really powerful differentiators. And again, I'm the only crazy man doing this. Put it all together and you have a unique proposition. I own the quirky stuff, the stuff that I might have hidden before, I'll talk about. I'll share stuff, not everything as I say, but being me, being unashamedly me, makes it more likely if they like it, they're going to buy it. And if they don't like it, who cares? They're not my clients. They're not the people for me. They go somewhere else. I don't need to apologize. More likely I get business from the people that want this. Also allows me to charge a higher price. And the way that I make sure that I'm available to a broad range of clients with different budgets is I offer a broad range of services. I don't just do one thing. I do speaking. Speaking gets me then automatically onto people go, oh, that's interesting. How do we do that? Well, there's training and then there's consulting. And hey, if you don't have a budget for any of these things, maybe we can do some coaching. I create lots of different options for people to be able to buy at whatever their price point is. And there's something else that I realized that's really bizarre, which is speaking and training is the same thing in essence, right? I'm standing in front of a bunch of people talking to them. But for some reason, speaking pays way more money than training. And I think that's because speaking is about your personality, you on stage performing, whereas training is more about the content. So I learned very, very quickly that if I call something speaking, I can charge a lot more money for it than if I call it training. It might be the same thing, but speaking is higher margin. Also, speakers are allowed to behave like divas, whereas trainers have to be civilized and sensible. So knowing this, the first thing I do is frame as much as I can as speaking. But the second is, if you have a look at my website, yes, clever technique to get you to have a look, human-risk.com, you will see that I only put pricing up for the speaking. And there's a variety of prices on there, so people, basically, the more money you can pay over, the more money you can invest with me, the more I can do for you, so I can cater for all budgets. But I start with the speaking, and everything else I don't need to put a price on, because the speaking, the most expensive product, has done the anchoring for me. I disclose, but I don't need to disclose too much, because I've understood the dynamics of what's going on. The other thing I love doing is developing in public. I think the traditional, conventional wisdom is you do your stuff, the physical world, do R&D secretly in a laboratory and then release the product. Tech logic is, of course, just release the product, don't worry about it. Minimal viable nonsense, get it out there. I experiment in public. I screw up in public. Not in an embarrassing way, but in a kind of, I play, I experiment, I see what happens, I try stuff out. It's a way of demonstrating I don't have the answers to everything. But we know that anybody that claims to have the answers for everything is either a politician or an idiot or both. Developing in public is a very interesting way to build relationships with people and put what I'm out there. And the fascinating thing, just as tech people release products out there, you can release ideas and see who likes them. You can talk about training courses and events and things you want to do that may not be available yet, but if enough people are interested, you can make them. R&D in public is massively underrated. You do not have to have the finished thing. You can just put the idea of it out there and people find it interesting and you'll get feedback on it. Working in private, secretly, is the worst thing I can do. Because all the ideas I put out there, that's not my best ideas, that's just the ideas I've had. There's a load more still to come. And so keeping that secret, the conventional logic of I don't tell anyone my trade stuff, doesn't help me. So as I reflect on the things I've been telling you, it's worth thinking that maybe the rules aren't wrong, they just don't work for me. So as you are looking at your situation and people tell you how to do things, they tell you how to price stuff, they tell you how to run your businesses, maybe what they're telling you is absolutely perfect for you. Or maybe they were designed for someone else. And the biggest lesson that I've learned, and I'm supposed to be talking about pricing, but we've talked about lots of other things, is that actually lots of the conventional wisdom and conventional logic doesn't necessarily work for us. And even if it does theoretically work, maybe the opportunity is in doing stuff other people aren't doing, to play around and find different ways of running your business. So as you listen to other speakers and as you listen to me, have a think about doing what they say, but have a think about doing the complete opposite as well. Rules can help us, but I think rules, back to my business, can sometimes hinder us. And I think it's worth identifying when rules or principles or ideas or models won't work for us. If you have kids, you are in a different position to not having kids. If you do not like traveling, you're in a different position to someone else. If you only want to work a certain number of hours or you don't like a particular thing, then don't design a business that has those things as a factor. Because that's not your business, that's someone else's business. Find the stuff that fits you, but also know the stuff that doesn't. There's tons of things I used to do that I will never, ever, ever do again because they don't work for me. And so as we finish up, I want to take us back to the iconic gentleman that started it. Look at all these happy people delightedly wandering, following his instructions. And his instructions are really important because he controls tightly confined environments. Right? Ample Man does not appear everywhere. He just appears on junctions, and he does his job brilliantly well. And I think the nice thing here is you've got him creating a positive vibe with people. But the other thing is everybody's walking in the same direction. And if there's one lesson that I think we should learn from crossings, is that if we're walking in the same direction as everybody else, doesn't make us unique, that makes us part of the crowd. And every single person in this room has something unique to bring. And the reason I told you some of my story and some of my thinking is I want to encourage you to do whatever that means for you in the sphere that you're in, because you've chosen a path that's really difficult. And if we're going to do a difficult path, we might as well have a difficult path that works for us. And that means following our own path and not the path determined by someone else. Now, normally at this stage of a presentation, you get something like this. Do you have any questions? A little bit of behavioral science for you. That's not a great way to get questions because people can just go, no, I do not have any questions. A better way of asking it, notice a woman correcting a man's work, not for the first time and not for the last time. A better way to phrase it is to say, what questions do you have? Because that's a way of saying, I would love to hear what you have to say. Please feel free to do so. Thank you.
Christian, thank you so much. We have like 1 minute and 7, 6, 5, 4 seconds left. Is there one question that can be answered in 1 minute? Please go ahead.
How often do you face rejection for what you offer or how you do?
How often do I face rejection? Yeah, how often do I face... Very, well, it happens, but it happens online, or people don't get in touch with me in the first place, right? So what I'm trying to do is screen that out. I don't want to have a single conversation. It's not because I don't want to hear alternative perspectives, but if I'm in the stage where I'm talking to prospective clients, I don't want somebody to come and be a prospective client who doesn't know exactly what they're getting. So I am doing a whole load of pre-screening. So my funnel, if you like, is very, very small, very, very tight. But that's deliberate because they've pre-screened themselves out. So it's not to say that some people hate what I do. And that's cool. They're just not my clients. That's not my tribe. So it happens and that's the point, is I want to really, really have very small numbers of conversations that I can't convert because they've screened themselves out rather than me having to screen them.
Well, but this is not our clock anyway. But very briefly, because I really sat on this question for the whole time, and actually we sort of mentioned it before you went on stage. Do you think, what do you say to people who say, well, it's very nice of you to talk, but do you have to be able to sort of afford the luxury of having this sort of approach to it, as you said? You have to be somewhere already.
So you could say, this is a very arrogant guy standing there going, right, you either take my stuff, you like it, if you don't like it, go somewhere else, right? It's meant to be a bit more friendly than that. But yeah, the way I managed to do that was I was lucky enough to be able to know that the idea, that there's interest in the idea, because I worked that out internally. So I kind of stepped out slightly stupidly, just going, well, I think this will just work. And I was like a small child kind of launching this business. And then I got serious about it and tried the serious stuff, and then realized the serious stuff that the traditional ways didn't work. So the answer is, I think I tested something in-house by almost fighting the machine, and so I had probably the confidence, the arrogance, or the stupidity to carry it forward. But you're absolutely right. Sometimes in business, we have to adjust to what the market wants. I've taken a position of going, I'm going to put something out there, and the market that likes it will take it, the market that doesn't won't. That may be a very luxurious position, yes.
Yeah.
But that's my years of suffering in a corporate environment have led me to this point. I think that's my privilege.
Yeah, you totally deserve it. But maybe some people have to keep the nose close to the grindstone for a couple of years more and then get out there to say, you know what, screw it. I'm going to do things differently. And people might walk away, but that's fine. I'm good with that. Okay, thank you so much. We'll take this away. Take this away from you as well. Thank you. Thank you to Christian Hunt, please. And we have a couple of minutes, as you know, of coffee break, and then please do hang around for the very final talk for today.